All right, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Carrier?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Mazur?
Here.
Mr. Methvin?
Here.
Mr. Vedder?
Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
In regards to what I said?
No public visitors to welcome. See, we've got a presentation, 2 presentations. Josh, you're on the agenda first. Ms. Myers, you're the closest to the projector. Who'd like to go first?
I don't have anything to project.
You can go right ahead.
All right. Josh, have at it.
Okay, I just asked Anita and Keith if I can come and speak real quick. If you're not familiar, this Saturday, April 1st, it is the same day as the PTO, so many of you might be gambling instead. But this Saturday, April 1st, hosted here. This Saturday, April 1st, hosted here at the school. I don't know if you're familiar, for 35 plus years at Bryan High School, they ran the Bryan Cage Classic, which has always been kind of a senior all-star game that they ran for over 35 years. But the highlight of that evening every year was a Special Olympics exhibition that they play between the games, and it is a highlight and a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. And this is out of the mouth of John Davis, who his son Johnny has participated in Special Olympics. But he said every single year the Bryan Cage Classic was the best, the biggest fundraiser for the Special Olympics program. Now, we started some things with the Special Olympics a few years ago. It may be 5 or 6 years ago now. I can't take credit for the idea. We stole it from Stryker, but that's what happens in education and coaching. And you see something good, you steal it. So we were at Stryker, and they hosted a Special Olympics event with Williams County. So I had the idea of getting Defiance versus Williams. So we did that like with a Williams County school every year. We did that with Edgerton and Montpelier a couple times, where they would kind of represent Williams County. We would represent Defiance County. Had an exhibition here at the school. So we've had some Special Olympics stuff here, but now with this event, we're combining 24 schools from the 5-county area. In the past, it was a 4-county area, but with our proximity to Paulding County, I think it would be a good idea to include them. So there were 23 schools involved in the past. We dropped Evergreen and Swanton from, Fulton. From Fulton, picked up the 3 Paulding County schools to make it 24, as well as the Special Olympics programs from the 4-county area. Paulding County does not have a Special Olympics program. A big shout out and thank you goes to Jim Schmidt, Family of Dealerships. They are our main sponsors for this event. Bob Weatherhead has helped me out a lot through this, so he went to Jim and talked to him about it, said this is what we're doing. This is a benefit to Special Olympics. Immediately Jim says, I'm on board. You let me know what to do, and I'll do it. So Jim Schmidt, Family of Dealerships, is the main sponsor, but we've had a lot of people in the community, a lot of businesses in the community who have come out in support, whether it is monetary donations, purchasing advertisements for our program, different things like that. I was away for spring break, so last week at Rotary, Bob Weatherhead went and presented to the Rotary for me. They had a lot of good things to say, a lot of good questions. And also John and Johnny Davis went and presented at Rotary too, so that was really neat. That is on HIX-TV. I watched that last night. Thank you, Bill, for doing that. If you would like to watch that, it was a pretty neat watch. But the proceeds to this event go to Special Olympics. That is the main thing that I want to carry on. Now, my idea, was to run this as a fundraiser for girls basketball at first, with raising some money for Special Olympics. So I sat down with the News Tribune with Mike Barth and started talking about some ideas with him. We kind of formed a committee to talk about this process, and Mike has been integral. And he's like, "Well, I think you could make a lot of money on the program that you put together." So he's helped me with the program there. We're able to generate some funds there, which means more money from the day of the event that goes to the Special Olympics. We've been able to raise quite a bit of money so far. The day of the event, we have some different things going on. There's a 3-point contest, maybe a dunk contest, but it doesn't look like we have doesn't have enough participants. There should be a really neat event. If you're not gambling and you want to stop out this Saturday, but it has some great ideas for the future and raising more funds for the Special Olympics, to get schools involved, to get players involved. So any questions that you guys might have?
What's the start time for that?
Great question. Doors open at 4 and the girls start at 5. At halftime of the girls' game will be the 3-point contest. It'll be semifinals for the boys and the girls, and we'll just run it as a finals for any Special Olympics participants. The winner will get a plaque, Special Olympics, and then after the girls' game, we'll crown an MVP for the girls, and then we'll have the Special Olympics exhibition. And then the boys' game, halftime of the boys' game, we will do the finals for the 3-point contest, and then the dunk contest if we have enough, and conclude the game and crown an MVP for the boys' game after that. So 5 o'clock, and I think we should be out of here by 9, hopefully.
Thanks, Judge.
A big thing, and one other donation that I do want to point out is Carrickson Farms. They gave a nice donation as well, but Jim Schmidt Family of Dealerships and Carrickson Farms, definitely. So.
Awesome. Thanks for doing it, and thanks for the update.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Jane?
Up. Oh. Well, for those of you that don't know, I'm Jane Myers, and I work for the Northwest Ohio Education Service Center. I am an education specialist, and I do all kinds of things at Hicksville. I'm here 4 days a week, and I wear many hats, from curriculum to dyslexia to gifted, all kinds of stuff. Testing, so I wear a lot of hats. So I just wanted to briefly kind of give you an overview of legislation that has come down the pike recently regarding dyslexia. And I don't know, how familiar you are with it, but I just think it's kind of important that you understand what we're doing and what we have to do as a district to follow the letter of the law. So in January of 21, Governor DeWine signed a set of laws that basically strengthened the dyslexia supports for all Ohio's children. There are lots of requirements of the law, and I'm going to share with you in just a minute 3 different things that directly impact the students of Hicksville. Originally, these laws were part of, like I said, in 2021, and it requires school districts and other public schools to administer annual dyslexia screenings beginning in the 22-23 school year. This is the one that's changed. Phases in over 3 years. Dyslexia-related professional development requirements for all teachers, and requires school districts and other public schools beginning in the 22-23 school year to establish a structured literacy certification process for teachers. In this fall, or last fall, September of 22, Governor DeWine signed another bill that kind of delayed some of the requirements because they didn't have things ready for us that we needed to have in place in order to implement the law. So what the delay did was kind of push back things for the screening for 1 year. We will begin in the 23-24 school year, administer a dyslexia screening, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So at Hicksville, like I said, there's 3 parts that I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the screening, I want to talk to you about the professional development, and then the structured literacy certification process. So like I said, with the 23-24 school year, this will officially begin. Here at Hicksville, we already administer the DIBELS to our students, so at this point, there's no need to add anything additional. That already happens K-3, so we're already kind of a step ahead. The state comes out with a list of approved vendors for this screening, and DIBELS is one of them. So we're lucky in that way. Then those students who are deemed at risk for dyslexia, they're going to receive a research-based intervention and skills group, which we are already providing, and a diagnostic assessment to determine next steps. Professional development. This is kind of the big thing that I've been working on with teachers. So there's 11 online modules. It's called Ohio's Introduction to Dyslexia course. You can sign up for it if you would like. If you're having trouble going to sleep at night, log on to this. It'll help you out. But currently I'm working with K-1 teachers here to complete them before their requirement is that they have to be completed before the start of the next school year. This Wednesday I'm going to be doing modules 6 and 7 with them. So I've been meeting half days with kindergarten teachers and the second half of the day with first grade teachers, kind of going through the modules together. There are videos, there are articles, there are activities and things that we do. So I met with Kirsten after school and I said, okay, I think I have a plan to get us done before the end of the year. So then next year, grades 2 and 3 teachers will be required to complete the modules, and I'll do a similar thing with them. And then the following year, it'll be all intervention specialist grades that haven't already received it for 12. So every intervention specialist in the district will have the training. Every K-3 teacher will have the training by the end of 2025. The third thing is the structured literacy certification process. So in the law, which I provided, I'll share this with Mr. Contrary, and you can share with the board. There's some links in there that they can look at. There is so all the teachers have to have this dyslexia modules. They have to complete that. But there's also something called a structured literacy teacher, and that person has to be willing to obtain and maintain a structured literacy certification as defined by the Ohio Department of Education. And the goal of this teacher is that they're going to use weekly data to determine targeted individual student needs and communicate with the title teams. So that's kind of like our take on this. This structured literacy certification involves classwork. It involves what do I want to say? An internship, or basically a practicum, if you will, that teacher would have to complete. Okay. Now, some districts have those people in place already. Some people are, some districts are using their title funds. The goal here, I think, and Kirsten can jump in any time with this, but we talked about how we're basically trying to restructure how we spend our title money and use somebody that has that certification piece. It will involve some work on that person's part in order to be certified. So this is what we kind of envision as that teacher role. They are going to provide some targeted or intensive reading interventions to those students that we've determined have a need for decoding, and that's basically what dyslexia, the definition is. It's that decoding piece way back in the beginning. And so we want to be able to provide that teacher with some support, that teacher will provide other teachers with support to meet the needs of those kids. We have an RTI team, and which stands for Response to Intervention, or it's now going to be called an MTSS, which is Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. So basically what that's doing is, I think you have that meeting tomorrow, right? Like where teachers can bring a concern that they have to this team, and then the team decides, okay, these are the interventions that we're going to use. That structured literacy teacher, she's going to be very important. He or she is going to be very important in those meetings, because she's going to be who we look for as being the expert on, okay, these are the interventions that we need to do for this particular student. Very individualized. That person will also help administer those screening and intervention measures and analyze the results of the measures. Work with classroom teachers to identify student strengths and weaknesses, and then work with the team to develop intervention plans and monitor. When a student is in this process, they have to be progress monitored fairly regularly, and our vision kind of is at the end of every week, when they're progress monitored, the structured literacy teacher will look at those results and say, okay, well, now Johnny has this skill, but he needs to move on to this skill. Or Johnny didn't get this skill, he needs more intense intervention. Did I get all that, Mrs. Kaufman? Like I said, at the beginning, we're pretty well prepared to meet all these mandates. It's just kind of finalizing and getting the structure in place in order to meet the needs. Like I said, I'll share this out with you, Mr. Countryman, but there is a whole section on ODE's website about literacy that talks about this. It talks about Ohio's plan to increase literacy. There's the dyslexia guidebook, and then there's a whole section on dyslexia support. The guidebook is really nice because it does give those dates and things that I talked about early on about when we have to meet certain mandates. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, so you mentioned this is kind of how we'll decide to use some of our title funding.
Correct.
Okay, so this person will be a full-time title person doing all of this? Yes?
Kirsten?
Yes, that's, oops, that is my vision. Right now, our title teachers are not paid at a teacher's salary.
Correct.
So basically, this would be a teacher position in the title role.
Realm.
Looking at the data and designing the lesson plans that the other title assistants are helping to implement as well. But this would be the lead teacher.
In the past, we've always done those like year-to-year contracts. Is that still the plan with that position?
Not with that position, no.
Okay.
We are actually the only school around here that I know that does it the way that we do it. So I think it's a great thing because in the past we've been able to have a lot more intervention until we started having to pay for insurance and things like that. But then what happens is you've got a certified teacher who's coming in and being paid basically as a sub, a little bit over a sub, giving up all their opportunities to sub in other schools, but then not getting paid as a qualified teacher. So I am hoping for this to be, it's already a certified teacher, but a spot that it would be a consistent year-to-year position for that person. And then we would have consistency, it would be effective, it would be not a lot of turnover. Because things get missed with the turnover. Because a lot of our, I've been very fortunate in the 9 years to have basically somebody on a title position for 3 to 4 years. But they might move to a different grade level. And so like this year we missed one of the grade levels getting benchmarked at the beginning because they did a different grade level last year and they didn't realize it, and it's just that type of just being more effective and efficient. Having somebody that's knowledgeable, that can be a mentor to the other people.
Do we have any teachers on staff that are interested in that position?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
Absolutely.
I think that's what the important piece is that consistency and that person with that knowledge. We have to be more strategic about how we meet the needs of these kids, especially now. And we have to have somebody that can kind of direct all of that. and help these people that are in these title positions, help them, because they're not always the best people to come up with the interventions. And this person, this role of this person, that's a big thing that person is going to do, is come up with the interventions. She's going to be taking courses and doing this practicum that's going to help her figure out what the best skills are that she needs to help them with.
And I was going to say, and my goal is for them to get those hours in our Wilson curriculum. So they would be the expert of that curriculum and then helping provide the interventions as well.
Well, I think it makes sense. I mean, we don't want to invest our time and money into a person that we're only doing a year-by-year contract, and we have the chance of losing or...
And I don't mind those assistants people being a year-to-year
Right.
contract, but that lead teacher be the foundation of the program. And I mean, honestly, Linda, this is just really what we do in title anyway. It sounds scary that we're trying to figure out these dyslexia tendencies, but it's still the kids that
Have difficulty reading.
yeah.
So would this be like a precursor to getting into a 504 or an IEP? Or
Absolutely.
would
This
they-
would be to try to prevent from getting on an IEP.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to say. It's actually going to be, the goal is that it's the opposite.
To reduce
That
that.
it
Yes.
reduces the number, that we intervene early and strategically, and using research-based strategies so that we don't identify.
And what's nice is we've been using Dibbles for years, but about 2 years ago, I ended up, they switched over. So I went into the more in-depth Dibbles, which is the one that they have approved. And I mean, they really give you a lot of information. When we sent home those progress reports just last month, I mean, there's 5 different categories that parents can see that, they might be well above benchmark here, but they're struggling here. And it just really breaks down the data. So that person will be able to look at that and really individualize how the interventions are going to go forth. So.
Any other questions or thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Director of Operations report.
Hello. It was a busy week last week for spring break. We got the snow removal equipment off the truck. We still do have the tractor and the one tractor with salt spreader on, just in case we do need something. But the truck has all been emptied out and ready to go for next year. Replaced all the heat and air conditioning, all the HVAC filters, and checked all the belts on all the equipment in the building. Serviced all the equipment, did all of our preventive maintenance stuff John and I did. We had some trees replaced today at the school, a total of 7 by Fran's Nursery. We had a geothermal leak back in October, November last year on one of our geothermal pumps, and we had quite a few areas that had some slow leaks in the back mechanical room, and was working with Wien and Shear Mechanical out of Fort Wayne on getting them repaired. We were hoping over Christmas break. Weather did not cooperate, too cold, too many days, didn't want to bust any pipes, so we've been collecting it and re-putting it back into the makeup tank. And finally they were able to be in here. They're hoping 3 full days of working on leaks. It took them almost 5 full days. They got done about 2 o'clock on Friday. Still had some gaskets that didn't come in, but they were able to get everything put back together, able to get the whole building back up and online and running late Friday afternoon. So things went smooth this morning. I kind of had some concerns on first time starting stuff up through the whole building. Things went really well this morning. Also, all of our fans we had put in the building, the plan was to tie those into the building automation system. So the computer actually starts them and shuts them off when that area of the building is not heating or cooling. Still working on that. We're not quite done. We were waiting on parts for the fans down the main event hallway. There's 7 Haiku fans down through there. There's a part that was on back order. We knew that when they were installing them in September, and they said it would be a quick add a module in there, hook up a couple wires. Well, it turned into a little bit more than that. It was tear the fan down, completely disassemble the fan, all new wires down through the pendant, all new wires all the way across the ceiling, daisy chain them all together. And then they said they still didn't work quite the way they said they were supposed to. And then they said they had to change all the circuit boards out on the fan motor, so IR sensors, so I had to take them all back down again and redo all those. So been quite the process. So now they were here on Thursday last week and got everything tied into the system. They're checking all the points and tying them all in Toledo now, so hopefully we get that all tied in here shortly. This is a year that we should be getting all the blacktop resealed, all the cracks filled, and everything restriped. Working on getting quotes for that, plus one of the items that I know the board had discussed was the blacktop at the football field, going to the visitor bleachers, the home bleachers, and in front of the concession area. And working on prices with that. I had a company I thought was going to probably be the one doing the work, and they've kind of downsized some of their operation, and he gave me a couple references to a couple other competitors, actually. So I am meeting with one of them tomorrow at 10:30 to get prices on everything, get a third opinion on prices. So meet the next one on 10:30 tomorrow. We've had, I know, the nightmare of the drive to 18 and all the stainy water. I'm hoping we're getting somewhere. Keith, myself, John, we met with Alexander and Bebo, Warren Schlaughter, the Defiance County Engineer's Office, ODOT it's been probably 2 years ago. And again, we met with them multiple times, and they kept saying that nothing was wrong with ODOT's piping. Well, there might be. So the good part about this was it's always been rain, a lot of rain and standing water. Well, we had no rain. I know it's kind of odd because it seems like we get rain all the time right now, but we had no rain, and Vancrest needed to pump down their retention pond, which is not supposed to hold water. So they got pumps involved and start pumping it down the drain with no rain, and they start backing all their water back onto us. So people are going, "What's going on? You got water on your road again? It's not even raining." I'm like, well, they knew it. They were end up testing it. They put dye and chemical in there to figure out, the color that they're sending, seeing which way it goes. And there is a possibility they're supposed to be having somebody come in. ODOT's hired somebody to come in to blast the line. But they do now have a concern that there's a possibility that there's a clay pipe in that section of pipe from the school to Wilhelm's. That's from the 1930s, and they're concerned maybe that pipe's crushed, and that's why the water's not getting away. So hopefully they can fix something. We did get all the water turned on to the football field locker room building for baseball and softball. That's where they change. The concession building for football, that's where the baseball restrooms are held, and we also got it on the press box, so we have all the park buildings up and running. They are going to shut gas off to those buildings tomorrow afternoon probably, because Ohio Gas is running a gas line through the park, and so we're going to shut down the HVAC and the hot water heaters. So, and then also over spring break, we had an issue with during construction phase, the style light fixture, but their panels are not light bulbs anymore. Out there in the field house, there's almost 80 light fixtures out there. But during the construction phase, Willis Electric, under warranty, kept replacing them as they went out. And school started and still having light fixtures go out. We had 21 light fixtures go out, which was a high percentage of how many they put in there. So Acuity and All Phase Electric out of Lima did warranty all of them, and they hired another company, Stolzheimer Electric out of Defiance, came in and spent 3 days, and they replaced all the rest of the light panels in the building. So all the light panels in the classrooms, the locker rooms, and the individual restrooms have all been replaced with new light fixtures, and they're all started a new warranty period. So that was done over spring break. Custodial staff was really busy with a lot of cleaning. Still waiting on some closeout documents and still trying to close out the field house. Unfortunately, there's some exterior punch list items that are still outstanding. And here coming up in the next few months, we'll be getting the word out there to everyone that currently has a field house membership that the memberships go from August 1st to July 31st. There's not an additional fee if you have a membership, but we just got to confirm that you're still qualified. If you're a Hicksville graduate, you live in Hicksville, live in town or anything in the village of Hicksville, you still qualify. But if you lived here at the time and then you moved away and you no longer live here and you're not a graduate, or you don't have kids going to school here, then you don't qualify. So that'll take place sometime here in June and July. We'll have everyone fill out all the information again, just to update it. So we're about ready to start mowing. So
Can you do that online?
the
information.
You should be able to send that, update it, and send it to Anita. The first time was critical because any new person, because she needs to collect the money and give you a receipt and hand you a fob. So the renewal should be able to be done online. You should be able to go in there, fill it out, and then just submit it to her. Cool.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
I don't know how you even keep a list of what all needs to be done. Holy Toledo. Thank you.
It's always continuing list. I always cross them all off in case call 4 and start a new sheet, so.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Principal's report. How about ladies first this time? You're going to mix it up a little bit and pick.
Just click the button.
Are you sure you want me to go first?
Yeah, I am.
With cancellation of school on March 10th, we were not able to screen those incoming kindergarten students. So we plan to screen, we have 8 kiddos that we're going to be screening tomorrow. These are students that have no prior school experience. We're going to go ahead and take the recommendations from the preschool of those students and then any student that automatically just goes into readiness. So we have 8 kiddos that we'll be screening tomorrow. We currently have 62 students to place for next year. So a great number. Thursday, March 16th, we had our family literacy night in conjunction with our 21st Century. We had an author come in, Steve Harpster. We had 202 individuals attend. It was a great turnout. It was a very successful evening, and a huge thanks to Sandy Brown, the title teachers, the 21st Century team, Melissa Crawford, the LMC staff, and just a variety of student volunteers. AJ's middle school school counselors helped clean tables and welcome families. Testing is underway. 3rd and 4th grades start their ELA testing next week. And lastly, we have another family night coming up. And this will be sponsored by Growing God's Way on April 17th. We have juggler Lamar Yoder. That will be at Hicksville Schools in the high school gymnasium at 5 o'clock. He'll also present an afternoon assembly for our elementary students. So it'll just be a great night of family fun and fellowship.
I think PTO is helping sponsor.
Thank you. Yes, the PTO actually helped sponsor for him to come for the afternoon for the elementary. So yes, you are correct on that. Thank you.
Well, what date's that on?
April 17th. Did they not fill out a building use form?
Oh boy.
Sorry, Eric. It's not April 16th yet.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Aaron?
All right, for the high school, I'd like to give special recognition to the staff and directors of the high school musical, Into the Woods, which was held at the Huber Opera House on March 3rd through the 5th. They put on a really great performance, and I heard a lot of great things from those who attended. I guess that's a pretty difficult musical to perform, and our kids did exceptionally well with that. So great job to them. I'd also like to recognize our seniors for a job well done with the senior coronation performance, and that was held on March 11th at the Huber. Our seniors also returned from a successful and safe senior trip to Gatlinburg on March 18th. Everything went well. I think they represented our school extremely well, and I was very thankful to have been able to accompany them on the trip. The 2023 Junior Senior Prom will be held on Saturday, May 6th, with post-prom to follow at the Georgetown Entertainment Center in Fort Wayne. The junior advisors will be selling prom tickets on April 5th and 6th for students after school, and then on April 13th before school, all in the Commons. And then the permission slips for students are available in the high school office. Our spring state testing in the high school is also quickly approaching. We begin on April 11th. In the high school, we're testing in the subjects of English Language Arts 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Biology, American History, and Government. And testing will take place for 3 weeks and conclude on April 27th. And our spring sports are now underway. Our first home softball game will be on Tuesday, April 4th at 5 p.m. against Crestview. The first home baseball game is scheduled for Saturday, April 1st, with North Central coming for a doubleheader at 11 a.m. And then track kicks off their season at home against Wayne Trace, Stryker, and Hilltop on Tuesday, April 4th at 5 p.m. And our Hicksville Track Invitational will be on Saturday, April 22nd at 9 a.m. So we'd like everyone to come out for those events. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Aaron. Tony?
On the middle school side of things, I want to start with a positive. The Friday before spring break, March 17th, our 5th through 8th graders had incentive days where students who met certain criteria were able to participate in some just really exciting activities. Our 5th graders had a movie day in the afternoon, and they also did like a video-led art project, and they really, really enjoyed that. Our 6th graders utilized the high school gym and the field house. They had like a dodgeball tournament, and even had some of the high schoolers come down and play with them, and they really, really enjoyed that. And our 7th and 8th graders combined, they went to a skating rink in Auburn, Indiana, and they enjoyed skating, games, and snacks. I want to give a special thanks to the Hicksville PTO for sponsoring that event, and just to all our teachers, 5th through 8th, for organizing these incentives, and just really rewarding and recognizing these students that earned these incentives. Next, we're looking forward to our spring sports season as well. Our middle school track team next week has their first of many events, and we want to wish them luck. We are starting our scheduling process in the middle school for the 2023-2024 school year. Our 5th through 7th grade students over the coming week will start to choose the electives that they wish to take next year, so we're excited for our students to do that. Finally, like Aaron and Kirsten mentioned, testing is starting to get underway. Our 5th and 8th graders will test in the subjects of English language arts, math, and science. Our 6th and 7th graders will test just in English language arts and math. We want to stress, and I'm sure Kirsten and Aaron agree, to our students and parents, just the importance of attendance, certainly, over these next few weeks as we prepare and take these assessments. But we're just really proud of the effort that our students and our teachers have given this year, and all the work that they put into these state tests, and we're excited to see how they do.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Eric's absent, so no Ford County report, unless he gave you anything to share.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep. Mine's really brief as well.
All right.
So, Deputy Hall, I just wanted to mention, again, I know I've mentioned this, but we're thankful that he comes once a week on alternate days. We never know we do know we have a schedule of when he's coming, but we're thankful that he comes and serves as a school resource officer for us, provided through the Sheriff's Department. Also wanted to give a special thanks to the PTO for providing lunch to our bus drivers on Bus Driver Recognition Day. That was very nice. They took the bus drivers and bought them lunch at Magpies, so it was a great day out there. And then I've mentioned this before too, but the quarterly Business Advisory Council meeting that happens once a quarter is the group that's formed from the 4-county area, and we have to be part of that business advisory. And so the ESC did it together, and they take care of organizing the meetings and getting the presenters and different things each quarter, and that fulfills the requirement that Hicksville needs to do with the state. And all the SUPs around, all the schools around participate in that event. It just makes it much easier with the ESC putting that together for us. So big shout out to them for doing that for us each quarter. So, and that's it. It was pretty quiet around here, except for Eric during spring break. He was the one running around. So,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the update, Keith. Need a motion for minutes and financials.
I'll move.
Thanks, Jen.
I'll second.
Thanks, Minda. Minutes from the regular board meeting on February 20, 2023. Treasurer's consent agenda items. Cash reconciliation as of February 28, 2023. Financial statements for February 2023. Approve amended official certificate of estimated resources for fiscal year 2023 as presented. Total general fund resources of $15,791,803.60, and total resources of all funds of $21,092,198.65. Approve amended fiscal year 2023 permanent appropriations as presented. Total general fund appropriations of $12,528,184.33, and total appropriations for all funds of $16,028,103.60. Accept the following donations: $50 from Guilford Investments for Jeff People Memorial, $200 from Angela Zedike for girls basketball, $300 from Collins and Guilford Wealth Advisors for Student of the Quarter, $2,000 from Jim Schmidt Family of Dealerships for NWO Senior Classic. And again, thanks for all the donations. We live in a phenomenal community. It's just awesome.
I wanted to add, I provided to each one of you a House Bill 1. It's a spreadsheet regarding that. Briefly mentioned this last month. House Bill 1 was recently introduced in our state legislation, and one of the things that they wanted to do is to eliminate our homestead reimbursement. So that is money that is essentially credited or reduced from a taxpayer's tax bill, and the state pays it to entities such as ourselves and school districts. So the state, or this House bill, is proposing to eliminate that reimbursement to the schools. Then, in essence, that money would go onto the taxpayers. However, what the state has proposed in this legislation is to give a 10% reduction in assessed value. So currently, assessed valuation is 35% of the property value. They are proposing to move that down to 31.5, a 10% decrease. However, what hasn't been really taken into effect is the effect of House Bill 920. So here's a spreadsheet that some treasurers throughout the state put together based on information coming from the state of Ohio. And with that, if this goes through as it is, House Bill 920 will actually increase our taxpayers' bill by $208,000, while the school district actually will see almost a $49,000 loss in revenue. So I've been told that this wasn't the intent of the bill, that those who are writing it did not want to see a tax increase on people. So I'm hopeful as this thing plays itself out that there will be some significant changes to how it looks. But as it is right now, what is meant to be a tax break to the people is actually going to be an increase while we get a tax cut as a school district.
Hey, we're from the government. We're here to help, right?
They must be the most awful chess players in the history of the game.
So anyway, I just wanted to keep you a little up to date on where that sits right now.
Didn't I read it right that House Bill will actually decrease the tax for business owners? But we, the people, will end up paying more, but businesses will be paying less.
Well, this here is talking about class one and two. I mean,
I
I'm
read
sorry.
the whole bill.
You read the whole bill?
Just great. The way I read it, yes. That
I have not read the whole bill.
Yeah, the businesses seem to get a decrease.
That might be, but
And that
this,
is partly why school districts are getting, and local villages and cities will be getting less as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the businesses get to pay less and pass that on to us.
the state would pay less because they wouldn't
Yes.
have to pay the homestead.
Mhm.
But our local taxpayers, class one, which is residential and agricultural payers, would have to pay more,
Mhm.
and we would be sitting here receiving less. So to be determined where this ends, but that's a little bit of update on House Bill 1, which is different than Senate Bill 1, which is attempting to take away the State Board of Education and put that, which actually is in the Constitution, back into the governor's office. It has not been in the governor's office for 50, 60 years. A Constitution amendment was done to take it out of there, and now they're looking to put it back in underneath the guise of the governor.
So we won't be able to vote on our Board of Education, our State Board of Education.
That
It'll
would be true.
nominated.
Yeah, that would be true.
Hmm.
So it will become partisan.
So that's House Bill 1, and like I said, I guess it brought up Senate Bill 1 too, because it does affect schools, and it's obviously, it has almost the same name as House Bill 1, Senate Bill 1.
So I have a question for you regarding the findings of the auditor. They put in there that we don't have policies in place. Did you read that portion of the findings?
Well, there's the gap one, which is in the report, we would like
Right,
not to do that.
exactly.
Then there was one management one.
And they made it sound like we were missing policies in place, so that way that,
Was it policies and procedures as far as the financials? What happened this past year is we switched, during that audit period, we switched from the old antiquated USAS system of accounting to a new, what is referred to as redesign. And there was I guess a glitch in the system that did not pull forward some information about encumbrances. It was adjusted for in the audit. It really has no effect on cash balances or anything, and should never occur again. That's what was in the management letter.
which, I mean,
So
to
I
me,
guess what
made
they,
sense, and that's why I was questioning why we should have a policy in place that it wouldn't happen, and I'm thinking, I wasn't understanding that portion of the recommendations regarding the policy part.
so policies are to review the procedures, I think. And
Okay, maybe we'll have to look at that,
In
because
this case, one, it will not come back around because it's a one-time occurrence. It takes itself.
that's why it didn't make sense.
So,
Okay.
Was that the only finding? Were there any other?
no.
Okay, awesome. Mike, any other commentary or any questions from the board or for the board?
No, not at this time. I think I'll like to say a few things when we get later on to the resolution, but that's later on in the agenda, so.
Okay, roll call.
Okay. Mrs. Carrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0 with one absent. Need another motion, please?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thanks, Minda. Thanks, Steph. Recommend to approve Randy Guilford as a certified substitute for the 2022-2023 school year. Recommend to approve the following supplemental contract for the 2022-2023 school year. David Moore, Mini Aces wrestling coach. Recommend to approve the following supplemental contracts for the 2023-2024 school year. Jeff Haught, head boys golf coach. Jacqueline Siebenauer, head girls golf coach. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. One absent. Another motion, please.
I'll move.
Thank you, Steph.
I'll second.
Thanks, Minda. Recommend to approve a service agreement with Northwest Ohio Educational Service Center per Ohio Revised Code 3313.845. This agreement will begin July 1, 2023 and shall terminate on June 30, 2024. The total projected cost is $782,861.30. Recommend to approve a clinical affiliation agreement with Northwest State Community College for an early childhood paraprofessional education program from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2025.
I wanted to just mention the ESC cost. One of the main driving forces increasing that is the cost at IEC. A student going there for a full year now is like just in excess of $30,000. So it's quite costly. So, and we have a few of them going there. That's one of the driving forces. And there's many other services that are associated with the ESC, but that is one of them that's really increased a lot over the last couple of years.
Our preschool is a large amount of that too.
I'm sorry, repeat.
Our preschool is a large amount of
Okay.
that bill as well,
Yeah.
because that's done through the ESC. And we have, I believe, 7 going to the IEC.
Wow.
So the preschool hasn't increased at the same rate. IEC is the one that during mid-season here, we have like a 10% increase. So, and then that's not the number of students enrolling, that's the cost per student. So,
Any indication why, or just, here you go, here's your 10%, enjoy?
It's,
just
I would-
there's a lot of need. So,
And I will say that, it's not like an automatic thing. We give it a lot of thought and literally exhaust the resources that we have here to make it work,
Right.
to keep them here. It's not something we want to do.
Sure.
And our ultimate goal is, of course, to get them back here as they reach their levels.
Yeah.
But it's not a quick decision that's made, and but it's made with great thought.
Right. Well, I know that that's the last resort. But I just didn't know if there were any other drivers there for, they gave you any indication as to why the 10%. That's all.
just the cost to deliver the services are going up, and a lot of times it happens when you have to bring in other people because of needs of students, so such as an aide or something like that, and that really starts to increase the price if you're adding, staffing to be able to take care of things.
Okay.
I can say, without identifying a school, but the cost for a couple students is around $180,000 that one school has for one student. And they have 2 of them. So it's based a lot on the need that they have and the disability that student may or may not have, or the services that they need.
Speaking of that, I'd like to just let you know, as you may not know, but we can apply for catastrophic cost. Catastrophic cost is there's thresholds for students that are Cat 2 through 5, and that threshold is like $27-some thousand, and then Category 6 students is $32,000 something. And so, for example, if you have a $180,000 student, thankfully we do not, but we definitely have students over $30,000. You can apply to the state for the prior year for your catastrophic costs, and those costs above that then basically get put into a pot, and you get a prorated portion back. That portion had been around 27, 28, 29%. So if you had $100,000 above the threshold, you'd only get like $27,000 back. Last year, that was more in the 45% range. But to me, it's very deceiving because of our funding system. What they have done is they fund a special education cost, and which ours is around $550,000. But then the state takes 10% of that out, so therefore about $55,000, puts it in the pot that will be used for catastrophic cost. So it's a chess game that there's, what they need to do is the state really needs to increase funding for students like this so that we can be funded properly and be able to cover these costs. Otherwise, that cost gets spread out throughout the district. It gets spread out through our foundation. It gets spread out by our local taxpayers for certain students that have higher needs. Anyways, I find that very frustrating that basically they give it to us and then just take it back away and still don't hold us harmless anyways. So that's catastrophic costs in a nutshell.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, that was a great explanation.
Yeah, I never would have.
No, I didn't know what that either.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Mazur,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier,
Yes.
Mr. Methvin.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0, one absent. Motion for other business, please.
I'll move.
Thanks, Jen.
I'll second.
Was that Steph?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't looking. Recommend to approve the 2023-2024 school year calendar. Recommend to extend recognition and congratulations to Elaine Gherkin, Jennifer Bergman, a host of volunteers and the cast and crew of Into the Woods for their outstanding performances on March 3rd through March 5th. Recommend to approve resolution number 2023-06, resolution approving the government entity settlement documents. And I would guess that's the resolution you wanted to talk about?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. President. Well, this Juul settlement for vaping related has been in the legal process for several years now, I think, at least 2, maybe 3. And there's a award that's coming out. I guess the total payout is about $1.2 billion, of which $600 million goes to government entities, and this is throughout the country. This is not a class action lawsuit, but rather it's a mass action lawsuit. So it only goes out to those. The payment goes to those who actually participated. So we signed up. There hasn't been a whole lot of work other than providing some information to the attorneys and providing this to you for approval. And then we need to, Mr. Countryman and I, go online tomorrow to do our next step. But in the document, it shows that we are to receive $14,893 before some expenses get taken out. And then there's also an additional payment that may come that's 8.1% of the gross settlement above what is of that 14.8. We are to receive 50% of our share this fall, and then 12.5% each December, so December of 23, 24, 25, 26. The attorney has informed us that these are unrestricted funds, so it gives us a lot of flexibility of how we want to spend them. It's not a ton of money, but on the flip side, we also didn't invest a ton of time or effort either. So I know one of the things that Eric is doing in the grant that we talked about is vape detection. If there's any other costs associated with that, this could be a good place to use these funds to help offset any costs associated with that. But we do not, just so you know, we do not have to accept this. But if we don't, there's no guarantee we'll get any money, and there will be further cost as the lawsuit would have to continue. And so, for my position, I'd recommend that we would take what we can get here.
I was surprised that there weren't restrictions on the spending. I was reading through that, looking for that. And I was surprised there weren't.
So I was too. That doesn't seem to happen that way very often. But I assure you, we'll put our heads together, and whatever we do get, we'll use it as fruitfully as we possibly can.
And we appreciate that you do.
Very well.
Okay, any old business?
Wait, we have to vote. You got to vote.
Oh, sorry. Didn't have the page moved. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Carrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
And Mr. Methvin?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. One absent. Now we'll move on to old business. You touched on the road, so.
Actually, I think that's good information that we have, finally. It seems a little more promising than anything we've...
Very much so.
I feel like there was an improvement. Like, I mean, I know it flooded that one time, but I mean, everything flooded that time, you know, but like throughout the winter and stuff, we didn't really seem,
as bad as in the
no,
past.
yeah.
Timing wise, I mean, just timing when it came, how long, well, the one big difference why it got better is because now Van Crest collects their water and goes to a pond. So instead of all that water shedding onto our property, you know, they were collecting it and then they were trying to send it out down, you know, their main drain. And so that's really helped slow down the process of it.
But I think it's interesting that we mentioned long before Van Crest ever started, that, is that plugged?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know DOT said they sent out a crew and they said all the lines are clear, nothing on there.
Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, it looks like it might be plugged.
Interesting.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I'll still take that as a positive.
It is a positive, yeah.
But it really worked out. I mean, I told Brad to ring with Alexander Vigo. I said, hopefully you had better luck than I did, because I met with him all the time. A lot of pictures, a lot of emails over the course of month after month for 2 years, and or at least over a year there. And they pretty much said it's not on our end. I'm going, what else you do? Well, and then all of a sudden you get Alexander Vigo, who Van Crest, their architect, but they have a good working relationship with ODOT, and so they kind of prodded them a little bit. And they did, I think did a little more investigating. You know, you got two companies both having issues in the same section of pipe, and especially when Alexander Vivo flooded it with, you know, no rainwater, just from the pond. I think that was kind of eye-opening to everyone.
Right.
So thankfully, we didn't do anything yet.
Yeah.
Spend any money yet to
Wait to
repair
see.
it, because we may be okay.
That's positive news.
Yeah.
Very good news. Any other discussion?
I just going to back up just a hair on that if I can.
Yeah, sure.
So when Alexander Bebout drained the retention pond, was they had a problem with it draining itself?
No,
Or they just wanted to speed up the process? Or?
Their retention pond is not really, it's supposed to stay dry. It's supposed to collect it, and then all that water's supposed to go away. They've had problems where they're collecting it and their pond wasn't deep enough. So last time I knew, they dug it over 10 foot deeper to collect water, and they're still having problems with the water getting away. So when there was no rain and we had no water in our pipes, they had no water pretty much in their pipes, and the retention pond was still not really going down, they forced the water out of their pond down the drain that we connect to together. You know, theirs comes in, ours tees into it, and then it all goes to the east. And instead of going to the east, it all came to the north and started backing up onto our road. And so, and then they put dye in it and try to figure out where it was going. And you know, you stay in their Bullholmes property. I know they were talking to them. I'm not sure what they said, but you could see water coming back onto our property, but the very next catch basin had no water in it, or very little water in it. So I think that was really helpful when they did that.
Fantastic.
Any other discussion? No guests? No need for executive session? Okay.
You need any, and unless somebody wants one, you can ought to call it if you need to. Minda, did you want to discuss something, or no?
We can go. It's all right.
I was going to wait. If you want one, we'll do it.
No, it's all right.
Okay. Need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move. I'll second.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Jen. So we'll adjourn till our next meeting,
April 17th.
April 17th. Thank you. You're faster on the draw with your calendar than I
I write it down.
am. It's at 5:30. Roll call?
Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes. Motion carries to adjourn 4-0. Meeting adjourned.